Dear friend, have you ever been angry at God? Not a fleeting moment of frustration, but a deep, settled, bone-aching bitterness. A winter of the soul where the sky is the color of iron, and every memory of past goodness feels like a mockery. It is the place we find ourselves when the story we thought God was writing for us has been violently torn apart. A marriage ends. A child is lost. A diagnosis is given. A dream turns to dust. And in the rubble, we look up to heaven. And the prayer that forms in our heart is not one of petition, but of protest. You could have stopped this. You promised to be good, and you let this happen. Why? This is a terrifying place to be, because we have been taught, often in subtle ways, that a good Christian is a smiling Christian, that faith means always being grateful, always trusting, always serene. And so, when the very real, very human feelings of anger and bitterness rise up, we feel a profound sense of shame. We feel that our pain is a spiritual failure, that our honest protest is an act of blasphemy, so we hide it. We bury it under layers of forced praise and hollow platitudes, and we feel utterly, completely alone. If you have ever stood in the ruins of your own life and felt the cold winter of bitterness towards God, this reflection is for you. It is a story that gives us permission to be honest. A story that shows us that sometimes the most faithful prayer we can offer is the one that screams, "The Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me." Let us begin with a prayer for the honest, angry heart. God of Job and Jeremiah, you are not afraid of my questions or my anger. You see the bitter root beneath my broken heart. Sit with me in this place. Do not ask me to pretend. Just be here with me in my pain. Amen. Our story takes us to a woman whose very name meant pleasant Naomi. She had a full life, a husband she loved, Elimelech, 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. During a famine, they leave their home in Bethlehem, the house of bread, and seek refuge in the foreign land of Moab. It is a story of survival, but it turns into a story of subtraction. First, her husband dies. The central pillar of her life is gone. She is a widow in a foreign land, but she is not alone. She has her 2 sons. They marry Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. For 10 years, they make a life, a fragile but real family. And then, the second blow falls. Both of her sons die. Let us pause and comprehend the totality of this loss. Naomi is now not just a widow, but a childless widow. In her culture, this was a complete devastation. She has no husband to protect her, no sons to provide for her, and no grandchildren to carry on the family name. She is an aging woman, alone in a foreign land, with no future. She is empty. The text says, "So the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband." The simplicity of the sentence is brutal. She who had been full is now completely empty. She hears that the famine in her homeland is over, and she decides to return. And her 2 daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, begin the journey with her. On the dusty road back, Naomi stops, and she performs what she believes is her final act of kindness. She turns to these two young women, and she releases them. She tells them to go back to their own mothers' homes. She blesses them, praying that the Lord will show them kindness and that they will find rest in the homes of new husbands. This is not an act of rejection. It is an act of profound, selfless, and heartbreaking love. She has nothing left to offer them. Her home is a home of emptiness. Her future is a future of bitterness. Her speech is a portrait of a woman who believes God's hand is against her. Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has gone out against me. She is not just sad. She is bitter. She sees her tragedy not as a random act of fate, but as a direct, personal blow from the hand of God Himself. Orpah, weeping, kisses her mother-in-law goodbye and leaves. It is the logical choice. But Ruth clings to her, and she speaks some of the most beautiful words of loyal love in all of literature. Don't urge me to leave you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. This is the first miracle of the story, hidden in the grief. Naomi's bitterness, her raw, unfiltered despair, her declaration that God is against her. It does not drive everyone away. It drives away the one who was looking for a logical, prosperous future. But it draws in the one who was looking for a real, authentic, unbreakable bond. Naomi's honesty created a safe place. Perhaps Ruth, in her own quiet grief, found more comfort in Naomi's raw bitterness than she ever would have in 1,000 empty platitudes. If you have ever found that your own honest brokenness has drawn someone closer to you, let your quiet light be a testament to the strange power of authentic suffering. So Naomi and Ruth arrive in Bethlehem. The whole town is stirred. The women cry out, "Can this be Naomi?" They remember the woman who left full. They see the woman who has returned empty. And here, at the very heart of her story, Naomi makes her stand. She does not put on a brave face. She does not offer a testimony of how God sustained her. She speaks her pain. She gives a name to her season of life. "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." She changes her name from pleasant to bitter, and she blames God for it. Directly, unflinchingly. This is not a whisper of doubt. This is a public proclamation of her grievance against God. And in our modern ears, it can sound like a loss of faith, an act of rebellion. But what if it is the opposite? What if this is an act of profound, rugged, winter faithfulness? Think about it. Who do you argue with? Who do you rage against? People who you still believe are in relationship with you. You do not rail against a stranger. You do not protest to someone whose existence you deny. Naomi's bitterness was not a sign that she had abandoned God. It was a sign that she was still in a deep, agonizing, but very real relationship with Him, She believed he was powerful enough to cause her pain. She believed he was sovereign over her circumstances. She had not lost her faith in God. She had lost her faith in his kindness. And she was faithful enough to tell him so, to his face, in front of everyone. This is the winter faithfulness of Naomi. It is the faith that refuses to pretend. It is the faith that honors God by bringing him our whole, broken, angry heart, instead of a polished, empty imitation of what we think he wants to see. It is the trust that says, God, you are big enough to handle my anger. Our relationship is real enough to withstand this. And what is the result of this brutal honesty? Does God strike her down? Does he abandon her? The rest of the book of Ruth is the story of God's quiet, hidden, tender answer to her bitterness. He does not give her a lecture. He does not correct her theology. He works silently through the loyalty of the very woman who was drawn to her authenticity. He works through a field, a kinsman redeemer, and a handful of barley. He slowly, gently, begins to fill her emptiness. The story that begins with Naomi returning empty ends with the women of the town saying to her, as she holds her grandson in her arms, "Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth." Her bitterness was not the end of the story. It was the middle. It was the necessary, honest winter season that had to be passed through before the spring of redemption could arrive. So, dear friend, what is the name you would give yourself in this season? Disappointed, abandoned, angry, bitter. God is not asking you to change your name to grateful before you are ready. He is inviting you to be a Naomi, to be a Mara, to stand in the middle of your town, in the middle of your pain, and to speak the truth of your aching heart. He can handle it. And paradoxically, it is in that very act of honest protest that the door is opened for a Ruth to enter, for hope to cling to us, for God's quiet, redemptive work to begin. Your honesty is a sanctuary. Your authentic pain is a place of refuge for others who are tired of pretending. Do not be ashamed of your winter. It is a season of profound, if painful, faithfulness. If this message has given you permission to be honest with your own pain, we invite you to subscribe. This is a place that honors the whole journey of faith, including the winter. In the comments, if you feel led, perhaps you might simply write, "Call me Mara," not as a final identity, but as an honest acknowledgement of your current season, a prayer of winter faithfulness. Let us close with a blessing. For the one whose name is bitter, may you know that your honesty is not faithlessness, but a deep and rugged form of faith. May you trust that God is big enough to hold your anger and your grief. And may you, in your raw authenticity, become a safe harbor for another weary soul, and find in their loyalty the first sign of your coming spring. Amen. Quiet now. Just breathe.